They say the hospital changes you. I used to think that meant trauma, long nights, and the weight of life and death decisions. But for me, it was the quiet part that got to me, the stillness at the end of a 14-hour overnight shift. That moment when the fluorescent lights stopped buzzing in my ears and I stepped outside into the blue-gray dawn, thinking maybe, just maybe, I could breathe again. My name's Caleb. I'm 27. I've been a nurse for almost 5 years now. And if there's one thing I've learned in that time, it's this. You can't fix what doesn't want to heal. That includes wounds, relationships, and family. I should have known better than to leave my car in the open staff lot. It's not the best lit area, and the security's a joke, but it was closest to the ER entrance. And after 4 code blues and a toddler's seizure that kept me on my feet for 6 straight hours, all I wanted was to peel off my scrubs, drop into the driver's seat, and vanish into a world where nobody needed me. Except the car wasn't there. Not my little gray 2013 Honda Civic. The one I bought outright with 2 years of saved-up overtime, tiptoeing around meals, and skipping every vacation and night out while my classmates took road trips. I froze, blinked, even laughed a little. I checked the row again. Maybe I was so exhausted I forgot where I parked. Maybe someone towed it. I walked the lot once. Then again. Then a third time, slower. Nothing. Panic didn't hit all at once. It crept in slowly, as if my brain didn't want to let the worst possibility in until it was absolutely sure. Car stolen. Just like that. I felt my stomach turn. Not because of the money, although replacing it would drain me dry, but because that car was mine. No cosigner. No monthly bills. Just me, the keys, and proof that hard work could give you one thing you didn't have to beg for. That's when I felt my phone vibrate. A voicemail. I didn't even hear it ring. I pressed it to my ear, already expecting the worst. Maybe a hospital alert, maybe something from my roommate. But the moment I heard my mom's voice, sing-songy and guilty, like she used when I was 6 and she accidentally donated my Lego set, something in me snapped. Hi, sweetie. Don't be mad, okay? Brian needed a ride to the lake house, and your father said it was fine. He gave him the car. He'll bring it back later. Probably tomorrow, or maybe Sunday. Anyway, love you, Brian. My younger brother. 23. Unemployed. Between jobs, as my parents like to say at family dinners. Charming when he wants something. Manipulative when he doesn't get it. He's the type who always lands on his feet. Usually because someone else breaks his fall. And apparently, this time, that someone was me. I stood there in the lot, jaw clenched, heart pounding in my chest like it was trying to punch its way out. I called back. No answer. Texted. Nothing. My dad's phone went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Then again. After the third attempt, I finally got a reply, a group text from both my parents, as if that made it better. We're a family. We'll get through this, together. Through what? My car being taken without permission like it was some community property? And the worst part, not a word of apology. Not even the decency to tell me beforehand. I stood there, numb, staring at the message, my scrubs soaked in sweat from the morning heat, and the stress bubbling in my throat like acid. What were they thinking? Who takes someone's only mode of transportation, someone who works nights saving lives, and tosses it to a guy who treats responsibilities like coasters at a bar? I had half a mind to call the police. Report it stolen. Technically, it was. But I already knew how that would go. They'd say it was a civil matter. Family. Misunderstanding. Besides, knowing my parents, they'd spin some story about how I said it was okay, or left it open for them. I'd heard it before. I was too harsh. Too closed off. Not understanding enough of Brian's struggles. I once called him out for borrowing my debit card and overdrafting it on PlayStation gift cards. My mom told me I was being selfish, that Brian just needed a win. It had always been this way. I was the fixer, the reliable one, the one who could be counted on to show up early, stay late, cover someone else's mess. Brian was the free spirit. He tried music. Failed. Tried real estate. Failed. Dabbled in crypto, sold sneakers. Got into 2 minor fender benders in my dad's car before they quietly paid for the repairs and told me I was lucky not to have to deal with the stress of being lost in life. Apparently, responsibility is its own punishment. As I sat on the curb of the hospital lot, head in my hands, I thought about how this had started. Not the car, the pattern. It wasn't always this blatant, but it had always been there. In high school, when Brian got caught sneaking out to parties, I was the one grounded, because I should have been watching him. When I got accepted into a nursing program with a partial scholarship, my parents asked if I'd consider deferring so Brian could have a chance to catch up. I didn't, and they never quite forgave me for it. But this was a new level. Still, part of me hoped it was just a dumb, careless mistake. That Brian would return the car in a few hours, maybe with a sheepish apology. I called out of work for the next shift, too shaken and furious to focus. I Ubered home, stomach in knots, rehearsing what I'd say. How I'd demand they never touch my things again. How I'd lay down boundaries. Finally stand up for myself. 2 hours later, I got the call. Or rather, the voicemail. From my dad. Calm. Detached. Like he was reading off a grocery list. Hey, Caleb. So, bit of bad news. Brian got into a little accident. He's okay. No injuries. But the car is in bad shape. Hit a guardrail doing 90, I think. Something about swerving to avoid a deer. Anyway, it's probably totaled. We'll figure something out. Love you. I didn't move. Didn't cry. I just sat there, phone in hand, blinking at the wall. 90. My car. My independence. My lifeline. Gone in a flash of recklessness and entitlement. I checked my insurance app. Nothing. Then it hit me. The policy was under my name. Full coverage, sure, but only for me. I'd made sure of it. I couldn't afford to risk premiums skyrocketing if someone else drove it. Which meant Brian. No coverage. No backup. No rental. Nothing. Just a pile of metal. And a group text saying, "We're a family. We'll get through this, together." I stared at that message. Then typed 2 words. Not anymore. But this wasn't just about a car. This wasn't even just about Brian. This was about the years of being used. Taken for granted. Expected to carry the emotional weight of a family that saw me not as a son, but as a tool. The one they could always lean on, borrow from, guilt into silence. And something in me, something deep, cracked. And once it cracked, it didn't stop. Because the next thing I did wasn't yell, or cry, or beg for them to understand. The next thing I did was make a list. And that's when everything began to change. There's a weird stillness that settles over you when something snaps inside. Not like rage, not hot, not loud, but cold, calculating. Like your heart just turned into a locked door, and the people who used to walk through it freely don't have a key anymore. That was me, sitting alone in my apartment the night after Brian totaled my car. Not pacing, not crying, not calling. Just making a list. Every slight, every favor, every manipulation I had swallowed for the sake of family. And the more I wrote, the clearer it all became. The next morning, I woke up to 14 missed messages. 4 were from my mom. Voice notes, mostly rambling about how no one got hurt, how Brian was devastated, and how we just have to come together. 6 were from Brian, surprisingly. Most of them were audio snippets, him sounding half sleepy, half annoyed, talking fast like someone who knew they'd messed up, but didn't really care. I didn't bother playing them all. One of the texts summed it up. Yo, can you handle the insurance stuff? I've got court for that speeding ticket on Friday, so I can't really deal RN. Court. Ticket. Another one. The other 4 were from my dad. Short. Direct. We need to talk. Call me back. Brian didn't mean for this to happen. It's your car, but we're all hurting here. That last one made me laugh. We're all hurting. Like it was some collective tragedy. Like they were the ones who walked 2 miles to a bus stop in wrinkled scrubs because their entire paycheck just got wiped off the highway at 90 miles an hour. I didn't reply. Not that day. Not the next. What really broke me wasn't even the crash. It was the silence afterward. No one offered to help with the repairs, or the deductible, or even a ride to work. My mom said she'd ask around to see if anyone had an old car sitting around. Like I was looking for a hand-me-down, not restitution. Brian went radio silent by day 3. He posted a selfie from the lake house porch, smiling, shirtless, sunglasses on, drink in hand. Caption, vibes only. Resetting after a rough week. My Civic was probably in a junkyard by then, and this guy was resetting. So I went quiet. I stopped calling. Stopped showing up for family dinner. Didn't even RSVP to my cousin's engagement party. That got my mom's attention real fast. She started calling me daily. Her tone got sharper each time. Less sugar, more guilt. Caleb, this is tearing us apart. Brian feels awful. He didn't do it on purpose. Your father is stressed, you know. He's not as young as he used to be. And I can't be in the middle of this forever. I didn't ask her to be. But she always volunteered. That was her role, the peacekeeper, the justifier. She could twist any story into something that made Brian look lost and innocent, and me look cold and inflexible. It was her gift. 2 weeks after the crash, I scraped together enough to buy a beat-up 2009 Corolla from a guy I met on Craigslist. The AC rattled. The paint was fading. But it got me to the hospital. No help from them. Not a dime. Not even a "let us contribute." And yet, my mom still had the nerve to say, "See? Everything works out." That was when I stopped taking her calls entirely. Then, about 3 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. From Brian's traffic court. My name. My address. A notice. Apparently, he told the officer at the scene that I had given him permission to use the car, which meant the court had questions about liability, which meant I was now part of the mess. I called him immediately. No answer. So I drove 40 minutes out to the lake house. My parents were there. Brian was too. When I pulled up, the first thing I noticed was that his car, yes, his car, was parked in the driveway. A 2015 Jeep Wrangler. Fully intact. He'd had it for almost 2 years. Gifted to him after he graduated from a 6-week real estate course. The one he dropped halfway through because the market wasn't vibing. I walked in without knocking. My mom was setting out cheese and crackers like it was some cozy Sunday gathering. My dad was on the couch watching golf. Brian was on the patio, scrolling his phone. I didn't shout. I didn't slam anything. I just held up the letter. My mom blinked at it. "What's that?" "Brian gave my name to the court," I said quietly. "Said I gave him permission. Now I'm liable." My dad rubbed his temples. "Well, you are family, Caleb. We didn't think." "You didn't think?" I snapped. "Or you didn't care?" Brian walked in then, drink in hand. "Yo, chill. It's just a formality. They asked me who owned the car. I said you. What's the big deal?" I stared at him. "The big deal is that now I might be responsible for your speeding ticket. And you never asked. You never even said sorry." Brian scoffed. "Dude, it's not that deep. The car was old. You were always complaining about it anyway. This just sped things up." Sped things up. My mom stepped between us. "Caleb, please. Let's not fight. We just want a peaceful weekend." I looked at her. Really looked at her. And I realized something terrifying. She wasn't shocked. She wasn't angry at Brian. She was angry at me for disrupting the mood. I turned to my dad. "Are you okay with this? With him throwing me under the bus?" My dad's eyes flicked to the TV. He didn't mean harm. "It's complicated." "No," I said. "It's not. It's really simple." Then Brian laughed. Like a full, dismissive laugh. "Bro, don't be dramatic. You always act like the world's on your shoulders. You're a nurse, not a firefighter." And there it was. That moment. The snap. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just nodded. Walked out. Drove back home in silence. I spent the next 48 hours doing nothing but planning. And remembering. Remembering the time I loaned Brian money to cover rent. Money I never saw again. Remembering how my parents always made excuses for him. How when he broke my laptop, they said it was my fault for leaving it on the table. Remembering birthdays where he got gifts and I got guilt-tripped for not being more grateful. Remembering the therapy sessions I secretly paid for after he said he was depressed, sessions he skipped, while I got texts from the counselor saying he didn't show again. Every single moment was a drop in the bucket. And now the bucket was full. But the betrayal that sealed it? It came 4 days later. I got home from work around 8 a.m., changed clothes, and fell into bed. 2 hours into my sleep, my phone started vibrating. Over and over. Voicemails. Texts. All from my bank. Unauthorized activity. Transfers. Alerts. I logged in, heart racing. And there it was. 3 separate transfers. From my savings account, the emergency fund I'd spent years building. $1,000. $750. $500. All gone. Sent to my joint account. The one I'd opened when I was 21 to help manage a family loan when my dad had surgery. The one we never formally closed. The one my parents swore they hadn't used in years. I called the bank immediately. Too late. The transfers had cleared. Then a 4th one appeared. $2,000. Blocked. Flagged. Frozen. But the damage was done. And the name attached to the account that received it? Brian N. He didn't even try to hide it. I sat there, staring at the screen. My hands shaking. My breath short. He stole from me. Directly. After everything. After the crash. After the court notice. After the complete lack of remorse. He took from me. Again. And my parents? They didn't call to explain. They called to defend him. He just needed help, my mom said. He didn't know it would hurt you like this. It was technically a joint account, my dad added. He didn't break any laws. That was it. That was the moment I stopped being their son. Not in the legal sense, not in the emotional sense, but in the practical one. I wasn't their fixer. I wasn't their wallet. I wasn't their backup plan. I was done. And the next move I made? It wouldn't be loud. It would be strategic. Rock bottom doesn't always look like some dramatic collapse. Sometimes it's just silence. A kind of suffocating stillness where no one comes to check on you. No one offers to help. And you realize you've been carrying a load for years that no one ever intended to lift with you. That was me, sitting on the cold hardwood floor of my apartment at 6:47 in the morning, my back against the kitchen cabinets, still in my scrubs, staring at my bank app like it had just confessed something unforgivable. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there. My savings were gone. My emergency fund, the one thing that gave me peace in an unstable world, stripped away in 3 clicks. Brian had stolen from me, and my parents had practically defended it. Not, we'll fix this. Not, we're sorry. Just, he didn't break any laws. The numbness that settled in was thick. I didn't go to work that day. I didn't answer my phone. I laid down for a nap around noon, and when I woke up, it was dark. I hadn't eaten. I hadn't even showered. For the first time in years, I called in sick the next morning too. Not because I had the flu or a cough or a fever, but because I couldn't see the point. I was supposed to be the responsible one, the grounded one, the one who always had it together. That's what people said at family dinners, right before they asked me for help. But what did it get me? A wrecked car, stolen savings, and a family who only saw me as useful when I was convenient. That week was fog. I barely remember it. I drifted between my bed and the couch. I answered one call from my coworker Maya and told her I had food poisoning. She offered to drop off soup. I lied and said I was already feeling better. The truth? I was ashamed. Not because I lost money, but because I had let it keep happening. Over and over. Forgiving. Explaining. Excusing. And now I was sitting here, 27 years old, 3 years into a job I used to be proud of, completely alone and afraid to admit I had nothing left to fall back on. But rock bottom, I learned, is a strange thing. Because once you stop falling, there's only one direction left. Up. It didn't happen overnight. Nothing ever does. But the climb started on a Wednesday morning, exactly 8 days after the money disappeared. I was at a gas station, waiting for the tank to fill up on my rusted Corolla, when I overheard a guy around my age arguing on the phone. No, Mom, I can't give him another $100. He said it was for rent, and then I see him posting from a freaking steakhouse. I'm done. I don't care if he's my brother. The word brother hit like a spark. I don't know what it was, but something in me shifted. For the first time, I felt not alone. I wanted to turn around and say, yeah, same, but I didn't. Instead, I went home, opened my laptop, and started making another list, not of wrongs this time, but of rights. Things I could control, things I could build. The first was my job. I'd been coasting for a while, just getting through shifts, doing the bare minimum because I was so burned out, so drained from giving everything to people who never said thank you. But I remembered why I started nursing in the first place. I remembered the first time a patient's kid hugged me and said, "Thank you for helping my dad." I remembered the elderly woman who gave me a Werther's candy after I changed her bandages and whispered, "You have kind hands." So I doubled down. I signed up for an extra training shift, an overnight trauma simulation at the downtown hospital. It paid a little more, but mostly it gave me something else, momentum. The instructor, a sharp, no-nonsense trauma nurse named Sylvia, took notice. "You ever think about precepting?" she asked after the 3rd session. I blinked. "Teaching? Me?" She shrugged. "You've got the calm, the presence. You make chaos look manageable." I didn't know what to say to that, but I said yes. By the end of the month, I was mentoring new hires, teaching, leading, and, for the first time, feeling seen. The next thing on my list was my finances. I opened a brand new bank account, new institution, new login, new everything. I closed the old joint account, finally. The manager asked me, "Are you sure you don't want to keep it open for emergencies?" I just smiled. No, this was the emergency. Then I started budgeting. Hard. Every dollar accounted for. I meal prepped with surgical precision. Sold some old tech gear online. Cut every subscription I didn't absolutely need. I even did a few overnight medical studies on my days off, low-risk stuff, like sleep monitoring. Within 6 weeks, I'd scraped together $3,000. It wasn't much, but it was mine. And with that little cushion, something inside me started to heal. I stopped answering my parents' texts. They sent a few guilt-trippy messages. "You're still our son. Don't shut us out. Brian's been in therapy. He's really making progress." I didn't reply. Not yet. I wasn't ready. But I wasn't angry either. Not in the way I used to be. I had moved into something stronger than rage. Resolve. I knew now that I would never get the apology I deserved. That the version of my parents I kept hoping would appear. The ones who would finally call Brian out, finally stand with me instead of behind him, didn't exist. So I stopped waiting for them. Instead, I focused on rebuilding me. And somewhere along the way, I started winning. A month after the car crash, I got offered a spot on the trauma team full-time. Better hours, better pay, more hands-on work. Sylvia vouched for me. "You're the guy I want when it hits the fan," she said. 2 weeks later, a patient's family nominated me for the hospital's Care Hero Award. I didn't even know such a thing existed. When they called my name at the staff meeting, I almost didn't go up. I stood there awkwardly while people clapped, holding the little glass plaque, and all I could think was, Brian would have posted this on Instagram and called himself a legend. I didn't post it. I just put it on my desk, next to my shift schedule. Quiet, steady, solid. The funny thing is, success doesn't feel how you expect. It's not loud. It doesn't come with fireworks. It's just this steady confidence that starts to replace the doubt, a sense that you can survive without the people who made you feel like you were nothing without them. And then, 3 months after the crash, I got a letter in the mail. From a lawyer. Apparently, Brian had been involved in another accident, this time with his own car. He hit a parked vehicle while trying to record a TikTok. Yes, a TikTok. The insurance company was denying coverage because he was actively filming while driving. And somehow, my name had come up because the Jeep was still partially under my father's name, and my father had added me as a fallback driver years ago when they bought it. The lawyer wanted to discuss liability. I laughed, actually laughed out loud, standing in my kitchen. It wasn't funny. Not really. But the absurdity of it all, the way they kept dragging me into their mess like I was some kind of human safety net, it hit me like a wave of surreal comedy. And that's when I knew. It was time to end it. Not just emotionally. Legally. Because if they could reach into my accounts, if they could use my name to cover their messes, if they could drain me dry while telling me we were in this together, then I had to do the one thing I'd been too scared to do. Cut the cord completely. And I had a plan. A quiet one. A precise one. Because revenge isn't always about fire and fury. Sometimes, it's about taking away the one thing entitled people can't stand to lose. Access. And that's where the Rayal story begins. 4 months after Brian wrecked my car and drained my savings, I had clawed my way out of the wreckage. I wasn't thriving yet, but I had solid footing. My finances were stabilizing. My job was stronger than ever. I'd even been tapped for a leadership track at the hospital. Sylvia called it nurse management potential. I didn't think of myself that way before, but she was right. I was done following. It was time to lead, and that included in my personal life, too. The lawyer's letter about the Jeep accident was what lit the match. Not because I was actually liable. I wasn't, thankfully, but because it was proof. Undeniable, tangible proof that my family would keep dragging me into their messes as long as I left the door open. The Jeep was never mine. I had never signed for it. But my dad had added me as a backup driver on the paperwork years ago, just in case Brian needed help moving. I never even drove the thing. And yet my name had made its way into another one of Brian's mess-ups. That's when I started the folder. Not a metaphorical one. A real one. Labeled Family Liability. Inside it, I kept everything. Copies of the bank transfers Brian made from the joint account. Screenshots of texts where my mom admitted, "Your father gave Brian the keys." My old insurance policy stating, "Only the policyholder is covered to drive." The voicemail from my dad casually mentioning the crash at 90 miles per hour. The legal letter regarding the Jeep. I uploaded it all to the cloud, too, in multiple locations. I wasn't planning to go to court, not yet. But I wanted everything airtight. Because this time, if I went scorched earth, there'd be no doubt who lit the fire. But I didn't want to act alone. I wanted perspective. So I reached out to the one person in my family who had quietly distanced herself years ago, my cousin Liana. She was a wild card, 10 years older than me, brutally smart, and had been labeled difficult by my parents ever since she skipped a family reunion and didn't apologize. But growing up, she was the only adult who ever really listened to me. I called her up one afternoon, unsure if she'd even answer. She did. "Caleb," she said. "Wow, haven't heard that name in a while. What's up?" "We met for coffee that weekend." Neutral ground. I told her everything. The car, the theft, the court notice, the Jeep incident, the silence, the betrayal. And when I was done, she leaned back in her chair, stirred her drink, and said, "So, when are you cutting them off?" "Already did." "Emotionally," I said, "but they keep finding ways to drag me in." "Then cut off the oxygen," she said simply. "Financial, legal, social, everything. Easier said than done." I told her about the shared medical emergency fund I had technically contributed to years ago, back when my dad had a surgery and the family pooled money into a secondary account in my name to protect it from debt collectors. I hadn't touched it in years. Honestly, I forgot it even existed. Her eyes narrowed. "Wait, you're still legally listed as custodian on that?" "Yeah." "Then here's what you do." Liana laid out a plan. A precise, ruthless one. She used to work in estate planning and now freelanced in financial consulting, so she knew the loopholes. We spent 2 weeks preparing. The first thing I did was formally close every account that had any tie to my parents or Brian. The old joint account was already gone, but I had to double-check. Things like PayPal, Venmo, even Netflix. My dad once set up a family Spotify plan under my email. That got nuked too. Then came the emergency fund, the one in my name. I visited the credit union in person, explained that I was the legal custodian and primary account holder, and I wanted to remove all secondary access. The clerk looked up the records. "Huh," she said. "Looks like a few withdrawals were made over the years." My stomach sank. "By whom?" She gave me the access logs. My mom's name, my dad's name, even Brian, once, from 2 years ago. The fund that was supposed to be untouched had been siphoned for years. Vacations, emergencies. I even recognized a few withdrawal dates that lined up with holidays I hadn't been invited to. I didn't even argue. I just emptied the account, transferred it to a fresh savings portfolio with a locked withdrawal window. I left exactly $1 in the old fund. And then I did something I had been putting off for months. I drafted a letter. Not an email, not a text. A real, printed, mailed letter. It said the following. "Effective immediately, I am severing all financial and legal ties. You are not to use my name, identity, or accounts for any personal or professional matters. Do not contact me regarding Brian, any pending financial issues, or family matters requiring assistance. I am no longer your fallback. This is not a negotiation. This is a boundary. Caleb." Short, sharp, final. I mailed it. Certified delivery. Signature required. And I didn't wait for a reply, because I didn't need one. Instead, I started setting up the final phase of my plan, the part where I finally pulled the lever. Liana introduced me to a lawyer friend of hers, Diane, who specialized in civil liability shielding. I didn't want to sue anyone, but I wanted protection. Diane helped me draft a formal cease and desist regarding the use of my name on any vehicle, insurance policy, or contract without my written consent. She also helped me comb through old paperwork to identify any lingering ties I might have forgotten. We found 3. My name was still listed as a backup emergency contact on Brian's university records, even though he'd dropped out. I was technically listed as a secondary on a family health insurance policy that my dad once piggybacked for a discount. An old co-signed gym membership Brian had used when he was 19, never canceled. Each one got severed. Each time, I sent a signed disavowal document. Paper trail. Ironclad. But the real moment, the final straw, came on a random Thursday night. I was home, eating reheated pasta, when I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened. It was Brian, sounding desperate. "Hey man, I don't know if you've heard, but things are kind of falling apart here. Mom and Dad are freaking out. Their bank account got flagged because of some old activity with the emergency fund. I think they're blaming me. I didn't even know you were going to shut that down, bro. We need to talk. Like, seriously, just call me." I didn't call him, because I was too busy preparing the last piece of the puzzle. Liana had an idea, one final nail in the coffin. "You need to tell your side," she said. "They've painted you as the cold one, the dramatic one, the ungrateful one. It's time they see the truth. So I wrote it. Not for them. For everyone else. The extended family. The aunts and uncles who always gave me side eyes at weddings. The cousins who whispered that Caleb was a little intense. The ones who believed the version of me my parents crafted. Distant, aloof, too proud to help. I drafted an email. Attached the documents. Redacted where needed. Told the story. Not with bitterness. Just facts. How I bought my car with cash. How Brian took it without asking. How he totaled it. How I paid the price. How he drained my account. How my parents defended him. How they used my name. How I asked for nothing but boundaries. And how they refused. Then I hit send. And I waited. The replies trickled in over the next few days. Some were shocked. Some were angry. A few apologized for believing the wrong version. But the best one came from my Aunt Michelle, the only other black sheep in the family, who moved out at 19 and never came back. Caleb, I always knew you were the one with the spine. They don't get to take that from you. Proud of you. M. That's when I knew it had worked. The bridge hadn't just burned. I blew it up myself. And I was standing on solid ground for the first time in my life. But I wasn't finished. Because Brian had no idea what was coming next. After I sent out the family-wide email exposing everything, the stolen car, the bank account betrayal, the years of emotional manipulation, things got quiet. Unsettlingly quiet. I didn't hear from my parents for nearly a week. No calls. No texts. Not even a sarcastic, wow, dramatic much, from Brian. But I did hear from a few cousins. One of them, Aaron, said his mom, my Aunt Clara, was shocked and didn't know any of it. Another, my cousin Nia, just sent a 3-word message, took you long enough. And then the phone rang. Blocked number. I picked up. Caleb, my dad's voice. Calm. Too calm. You made your point, he said. We all make mistakes, but airing family laundry like that was unnecessary. I didn't respond. He continued. You embarrassed your mother. Your brother's dealing with the fallout. The family's upset. The truth upset them, I replied. That's not my fault. Silence. You need to fix this, he said, almost like an order. That was when I knew, even now, after everything, he still thought I was the one who had to clean it up. That conversation lasted 12 more seconds. I told him I wouldn't be calling again. Then I blocked his number. But it didn't end there. Because the revenge wasn't complete. I wanted accountability. And I knew how to get it. You see, the Jeep that Brian wrecked? The one where I'd been falsely listed as a backup driver. I'd had my lawyer friend Diane do a little digging. Turns out, Brian never reported the accident correctly to the DMV. He'd claimed it was a minor fender bender, never disclosed the TikTok video, and tried to bypass the insurance investigation entirely. Unfortunately for him, I had already sent the insurance company a nice little folder of evidence, including the court notice from my previous car, his group texts where he admitted to driving recklessly, and yes, even the screenshots of him posting TikToks while driving. A few days later, Diane got a call back from the insurance investigator. I don't usually say this, the guy said, but thank you. This kind of documentation? It's rare. We're officially opening a fraud inquiry. Boom. Brian was hit with a denied claim, and the insurance company slapped him with a fraud warning on his record. That alone made it almost impossible for him to get insured again, at least not without paying a premium rate that would gut his already fragile finances. But the next part? That's where it really hit. Because remember the emergency fund my parents had been tapping without my knowledge? The one they used for random expenses while pretending it was frozen? Well, Liana, my cousin, the one with the financial consulting background, helped me uncover something nasty. Apparently, some of those withdrawals had occurred during a time when my parents were applying for government medical assistance. And one of the documents they submitted swore under penalty of law that they had no access to funds outside their main bank accounts. Guess what? That emergency fund was legally still in my name, but their signatures were on the withdrawals. So I did what they never expected. I reported it. Not because I wanted to see them arrested, but because I wanted them scared. I wanted them to sit down across from an investigator and explain themselves, without me swooping in to protect them. It worked. They were flagged for review, and I later learned through a distant cousin who worked in the municipal office that their benefits were suspended pending audit. No formal charges were filed. I made sure to tell the agent I didn't want to press charges personally, but it created a legal headache they couldn't ignore. And for the first time, they couldn't use me to fix it. That's when the calls started again. Not angry ones this time. Desperate ones. My mom left voicemails crying. Real sobs. Please, Caleb. We didn't mean to hurt you. We were just trying to hold everything together. Your father's blood pressure is spiking, and Brian, he's falling apart. Then came Brian's texts. Walls of text. Paragraphs. Apologies. Half-hearted explanations. A few guilt trips disguised as concern. Dude, I know I messed up. I'm in therapy now. Like actually doing the work. But you going full Sherlock Holmes on me. That's cold, man. I didn't respond. Then one night, out of nowhere, he showed up at my apartment. I didn't let him in. We stood at the door. Just, hear me out, okay? He said. I know I'm the failure. I've always been one. But I never thought you'd go nuclear. You stole my car. You stole my money, I said calmly. And you only showed up after the consequences landed on you. He flinched. I didn't know how bad it got for you. You didn't ask. He looked down. For once, the smugness was gone. I'm not mad anymore, I said. But I'm done. That means no more ties. No more rescues. No more we're family speeches when it's convenient. He swallowed hard. So that's it. That's it. I closed the door. And it stayed closed. The fallout was quiet. No one disowned me. No one sent angry letters or tried to shame me in public. They just stopped inviting me to things. Slowly, subtly, the next wedding happened without a save the date. A baby shower passed without a text. It was their way of punishing me without looking like villains. I didn't mind, because something strange happened in the months that followed. I got lighter. I had more time, more peace, more energy for the people who actually wanted to be in my life. I joined a hiking group, reconnected with Maya from work. Turns out, she was a bit of a nerd too, and we started watching bad medical dramas together on weekends. I even adopted a cat, a moody little gray tabby I named Stitch, because he liked to swat things off the counter and run like he'd sown chaos into the fabric of the apartment. I started sleeping better, laughing more, living fully, and every now and then, I'd get a glimpse of the old world, a photo someone posted from a family gathering, or a forwarded message from a relative trying to check in. But I never replied, not because I was bitter, but because I was free. People think revenge is about making others hurt. That's a rookie mistake. Real revenge? It's about never needing them again. It's about making sure they know they can never use you, lie to you, or drag you down again, and that their actions cost them you. Forever. And as I stood one afternoon, sipping coffee on my tiny balcony, sun on my face, watching Stitch attack a bug with full gladiator focus, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I was whole. And they were exactly where they belonged. On the outside, looking in. They took everything from me. And that's how I learned I never needed them to begin with.